We're live. Yay. Okay. Super excited to be here today. My name is Emily Clay. I'm with Illumhire, and at Illumhire, we provide a lot of resources and information about the future of work, as well as technology trends, as well as how to start a business and how to or a side hustle. We're also working with companies to help them build out their multi-generational teams. And today we have Lacey Kesler, who is the head of education for Adalo. Lacy has a true love for no code and teaching others how to think about building out their products. And she works with clients from all over the country and works with them on figuring out solutions for their website or their mobile apps. And her claim to fame is that Vlad Magdalene, who is the co-founder and CEO of Webflow, and he has 40,000 Twitter followers, but whatever, said that Lacy is the leading voice in visual software development, in the visual software development movement. She's also the founder of Women in No Code, and as I mentioned, she's currently the head of education for Adalo, which is a no-code company, and it helps to build an app. Now, Adalo's purpose is to empower makers to bring their ideas to life. And there's one quote from their website that I just have to repeat because it kind of gives me chills. It says, "Today, the skill of coding prevents billions of people from bringing their ideas to life. We believe this needs to change. We believe anyone should be able to create an app regardless of their technical expertise. Because a world where only 0.3% of people can solve problems is a world missing 99.7% of its potential." So with that, welcome, Lacy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, so glad to have you here. I know, we met through Twitter, and so, another amazing platform. But yeah, after seeing everything that you had done and after stalking you a little bit online, I thought, I wonder if she would talk to me. So I'm really glad that we met up and chatted about the possibility, and now we're here.
Yeah.
So just to reset the room really quick, the agenda here today is really talking about getting set up to build your no-code product. And if anybody has a question, there's an Ask a Question button down below. And then after the end of the discussion with Lacy, then we'll go through those questions that you may have, and that you will probably have, hopefully. So with that, I'm going to ask you the first question.
Sure. Yeah.
So can you kind of just walk me through how you got here? I mean, your backstory, because obviously you're super passionate about this and the potential, but you're kind of been an early adopter for a while. So what got you interested in this? How did you get started in it?
Yeah, it was honestly by total accident how I got here. So my background is originally in product. I was in product for a small SaaS company where I live. And I thought, hey, I really love doing this. Like, I wonder if I would love actually creating the products myself. And so I left there and went into software engineering. And just kind of jumped in, didn't think about it too much. And my youngest daughter was 4 weeks old when I started. So that was balancing so much. But I was in it for about 18 months. And I was just like, oh, I have a problem because this is really cool, but I hate coding. And there's nothing I don't enjoy it. I'm not finding any joy in it. And so my husband was like, well, you kind of went down this path. So you need to, figure yourself out. So I had a friend who was like, hey, can you create a website for me? And I was like, yeah, sure. I don't really do that sort of thing, but I'll give it a try. So I was in WordPress and had never been in WordPress before. And was, going to town on some PHP, which is what WordPress uses, their language, and got stuck and went to YouTube. I go to Google immediately. YouTube video comes up, and I'm like, okay, this looks like it might be my solution. And a Webflow ad played, and I was like, wait a minute, Webflow, there's visual development. How did I not know this? And so I started looking at Webflow, and then I was like, oh, wow, this is the direction I want to go in. Like, this is so much more my speed.
And intuitive, right?
Yeah, intuitive. And it just made so much more sense to build things visually versus working in a back in a database and then UI. And then, it was so much back and forth that I was like, my brain just doesn't think this way. And so I jumped into Webflow, and then thought, like, how fun would it be if I can like help other people learn how to do this, because I have this product background, I have the software engineering background, and like I can marry that and like just start helping other people. And so started out on Twitter, just like stalking everyone that I could who was like talking about it. And then started putting out tutorials and content and meeting people. And then it just like snowballed into this thing that I could not have imagined. Like, if someone would have told me 2 years ago that I'd be here now, I just wouldn't have believed you at all.
So was this, I mean, in terms of like following your curiosity and really going for it, was this like 2 years ago about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we'll hit 3 this fall, but yeah.
Okay, because I mean, the term's only been around for about 2 or 3 years, right?
Yeah. I mean, the space, literally, I could probably say there were like 20 maybe people who were like actively in this space. Ben Tossell from MakerPad was the first one who was like that I saw. It was actually a woman before him named Tara Reid. She has Apps Without Code. She was actually the first one that kind of launched into the space. But so it's grown significantly. So I literally just like fell into this. I didn't mean to get here, but I'm so happy I'm here.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I love it. And just for everyone's benefit, I looked up the definition of no code, and it says no code is the art of creating a unique solution to a problem that could have been written with code, but the individuals have made it using visual methods without using any coding. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. But I love that. And you just kept going. You just loved it and just kept educating yourself and following people who you knew were in this space.
Right. Yeah. Making connections and learning what I could learn. And like, I'm a software nerd. I love software. Like, my friends know if they send me a pretty piece of software, it just makes my day. And so I would go and play around with it just like on my own and build stuff. And then it was like, oh, I can do this and I can connect it here and I could do this. And then started taking on clients and building out stuff for them. And so then I was learning more and experimenting a lot. And with the podcast, we try and play with all the tools that we see. And so then I was just kind of getting more and more exposure.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's awesome. And then I'm just curious, when you were interviewing with Adalo, did you show examples then of all these different products that you made?
No, they didn't ask, which I think was funny. No, they reached out to me. So I was working for myself, and then they reached out to me in December of last year. And they initially wanted to do a job posting in Women in No Code.
Yeah.
I don't really do job postings in there, but like, because we're friends, I'll pass it along, like that's fine. And then they came back and they're like, hey, actually, we don't want to post that job. Like, what would you think about coming on as head of education? And I was like, it just literally out of nowhere. Yeah. So talked with them. I'd had David, our CEO, on the podcast before, so I knew of him. And I was actually at No Code Conf when they launched Adalo publicly. Before that, it was like their private software that they were using for clients. And so I'd known of David, and then we just had a good relationship. And then I met Caitlin, who's our director of growth. And so then they offered me the job. I was incredibly surprised and humbled, and that was so great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then you started Women in No Code. Why did you feel the need to start this organization?
Yeah. My honest answer, it's not very polished, to be honest with you, but I was just around so many men all the time, everywhere, every meeting, everything. It was predominantly male, but women were coming and DMing me and privately talking to me. And they wouldn't go to meetups, or if they were there, they wouldn't share, which is totally fine. But it was just like, I was like, what's going on here? And I've like always worked in like, male dominated industries. But I don't know, I never really saw it so much as I did till I was kind of over on this like tech side.
Sure.
So I started talking with some different women, and I was like, hey, what would you think if I like put together like a community around women, and that's like focused on women, focused on products. So we have women in there who like have their own startup ideas that they're working. We have people in there, marketing, design, all sorts of different backgrounds, all sorts of different ranges of like total beginner to like total expert in their field. So it's just a great way for us to be together and help one another and learn together, learn from each other. So it's good. It's great.
Sure. No, I mean, the fact that you recognize, oh, they're DMing me privately. Maybe it's time to take care of that, do something about it. So then we talked a little bit about the term and how new it is and everything. But in the last year, I feel like there's more and more products showing up that are no code products. And a lot of people don't know about them. So what's your take really about the future of work and the opportunities that exist with no code?
Yeah. So I think what people are realizing is that not everything has to be farmed out to IT to handle it. Like we can decentralize how this works, and people can actually have autonomy and ownership over their processes and flows and what they like. And these tools are coming out that they can be highly collaborative, or you can like use Zapier and work in a tool, send that information on somewhere else where it updates. I do that at Adalo. I like to work in different tools than we work in as like a company, a whole. So I think it's giving people that autonomy and that flexibility to really own their process and their work. And it allows them to be creative. They're learning as they're using their tool, and they're going to find ways to be more efficient and to like take back some of that stuff that we've been farming out that IT doesn't want to deal with anyway. Like they don't care. So, I mean, I'm sure some do, but
some of them do.
Yeah.
Cool. So then what would you say to people who are pretty tech averse, or, I don't want to say fearful, but maybe it's, just definitely not in their wheelhouse and they're not comfortable with it. Where would you begin if you were a newbie?
Yeah. So like we have this conversation a lot of like, what's the most original no code tool? And we all settled on like, it's Excel, because it's a database. Like that is the most, like the very first tool that you could have is Excel. So I would say, honestly, look at what you're using now and find simple tasks that you're doing over and over and over again. And look at maybe using another tool like Zapier to say, okay, what could I like just automate here? Zapier is a fantastic, it's very beginner friendly. It's very sequential, step by step, walks you through what's happening. So you're not like getting lost in, all the steps. But I would start there, or start looking at, so one of the things that I'm working on just like in my personal life is awareness, cultivating awareness of myself, of others, of feelings, of all of these things. But I would say really like also cultivating awareness about when you're interacting with software, be curious about it. Like look at, okay, like let's take LinkedIn or Facebook, for example. Like, okay, like I can navigate around this page. I'm getting information from this page. I'm clicking a button and it's doing something, and start thinking about what's happening on the back end, or like look at a profile page and like kind of deconstruct it in your mind. We have an image, we have a text field, we have another text field that has a description, we have a button. Start looking at it in like an analytical kind of way, and it's going to deconstruct and make it less scary, because you're essentially teaching yourself without intimidating yourself.
Yeah. Okay. And then can you cite some examples and stories of people who have been really successful using it? I mean, I was listening to a podcast, and I can't remember if you were on it or not, but anyway, they talked about how no code products are actually showing up on Product Hunt, which is really a well-known website for new products.
Right.
So that was surprising to me. But can you talk a little bit about, examples that are either things that we might know about or things that we might not?
Yeah, sure. So one that I go back to, and just because I think he deserves credit here, is, Ben Tossell created MakerPad, that was acquired by Zapier. And his whole platform uses no-code tools. So like Ben actually worked for Product Hunt before going to MakerPad full time. And he built an entire marketplace, like website. He has a back end because he has users on there with login, log out functionality. There's courses on there. There's ways to monitor and track how far people are along in their journey. That was wildly successful and something that we hadn't seen before. Like the no-code community hadn't seen a maker build something, a platform for other makers, and then it gets acquired. Like that's definitely a success story there. We've had an app on Adalo get acquired. And to be honest, I don't know what exactly the app does because it's not in English. And so I'm like, I can move it around, but I don't know what it does, but it must be really great. I mean, it was acquired. So
wow.
We see tons of large companies using platforms like Webflow for all of their marketing sites. I have a friend who runs a no-code agency. Their entire agency is no-code tools. They do not, I mean, they will use some like low code if they need some JavaScript or something like that.
Yeah.
But their entire platform is no-code tools. I'm sure there are others. They're totally slipping my mind right now, but we see use cases for all sorts of things. So like websites, marketing sites, things that people can handle internally that they're not having to go get a dev team for. And then we see things for apps like for community efforts or food ordering, restaurants, any type like marketplace, e-commerce, all of that we're seeing too. So anything that you could have a use case for, there's bound to be a solution or maybe a no code and low code thing that you could mix together to create.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Love that. I was reading about a story about a guy who said that he was earning about $30,000 a month. And because he recognized that education, like, K through 12, they were cutting the music programs, right? And so he had like a rotating music teachers and then was paid by the schools in order to coordinate that, because that was one of the obstacles of the problems, was coordinating it. Obviously there was money too, but they took the money from the foundation or something. Anyway, I thought that was pretty incredible. He was super passionate about music and that, kids need it. So he ends up doing the side hustle and then it's $30,000 a month. What? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I just think it's really interesting, especially if you have a different lens. If you have like a liberal arts background, then maybe you see a problem out there and then you can look at these tools and kind of play around with them and go, oh, okay. I wonder what would happen if I did this, I was just talking to a friend about having like a share, like an app that would, you could share products. It might already exist, but in our little neighborhood, we have like 600 houses, and to just be able to like share an ice cream maker or whatever and have the legal piece in there or whatever, saying if you break it, you replace it. But something like that, like, I don't know if it would make any money, but but in the pandemic, a lot of people are being much more cognizant about what they're spending money on. And so, okay, so there's a sharing economy already in place. So why don't we just take it a step further,
Right. Exactly. And one thing I wish I would have done this is like, when the shutdown happened and all the food now is like to go if restaurants are open, right? Take it all to go. And it's like, I wish I would have thought to like, just create an app that's like a food ordering app these restaurants can use, and then go around and sell the same app to every single person. They don't care that it's like absolutely on like the most designed, well-branded, thing. They need a way to make money and they need something fast, and they likely don't have $50,000 to just drop like that for a custom app development, but they would pay for a solution that, they can use an app. They're still getting their food sold. Customers can buy food, and it's going to get them through this. I think about that all the time, and I was like, dang it.
I would have been your sales rep. Dang
Yeah.
it. Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah, I know.
No, but I mean, but there are some restaurants who did it on their own, but they were savvy enough to already know about some of these tools that are out there. So that's part of the problem. I feel like a lot of people aren't even aware of what is available. So I did talk to a few developers about no code, and some of them said, yeah, that's great, Emily, but it's not really for companies that want to scale, like, become $100 million company or whatever. And so, because you have to have proprietary technology, but you can do an awful lot with no code, and even starting out with a minimal viable product to see if your idea will work. Can you kind of walk me through that in terms of, have you heard this before? I'm sure you have. And kind of what is your response to that?
Yeah. I know not everyone, but I hear it a lot. I heard it yesterday. I was talking with some makers, and they're like, well, what happens if we scale? And it's like, I just want to see you sell 100 systems to your app first. Then
worry about it later.
Yeah. Like if scalability is where you're going, money is not your problem. Like, first off, you know what I mean? But, so I hear a couple things, or here are things that I think about. One, not every product is going to be the unicorn product. That's like, oh, this is like the next Facebook or Zoom or Twitter or Airbnb, what have you, right? But that doesn't mean that wonderful, sizable products can't be built using these tools. So that's like the first thing. The second thing, I think some of these tools can scale and are built to scale up to whatever you need it to be. Some are not. But to me, I think, okay, like, let's just say in this like fake reality, I'll use an app, for example, or a website, whatever. I'll use an app for users' sake. We have this app that has, 100,000 users, and we're needing more than what we can do. So you already have an app right now with 100,000 users that the ins and outs of. So then that's already going to save you development time, because you're going to be able to take that app, hand it off to a traditional developer and say, I just want this exact thing with like more servers or something like that.
Okay.
And so that's already going to save you so much time, because no code is not only great for like spinning things up quickly, it's great for iterations. So you can go in quickly, make changes. You're not having to wait and go back and forth. Like, you can get, depending on your user base, like instant feedback about whether or not something is working for you. And I also think it's the things that people are looking to build aren't always going to be your 100,000 users or million users, right? Like, it can be something that serves their community, but it does what, it needs to do. And that's a great use for the tool. So I think it could go either way. But I understand why people ask that, because they don't want to get locked into something and then they're stuck. But I also think, there are so many other questions to ask before then. It's good to keep top of mind, but it shouldn't be something that stops you. That's for sure. Yeah,
right. And just to tag on to that, it's a random question, but are all of the no code products, GDPR friendly? I mean, are they all ready to go in terms of all the privacy and everything that you have to adhere to now? Especially, well, it's in Europe now, and California, but not so much the rest of but that is going that way in terms of protecting your data.
Right. I would say the bigger ones, yes. I can't say for all, but I mean, a lot of them, so their back ends are like AWS. So it's Amazon, or it's like they're using something else. So they're kind of relying on that to come in and like play, like they're going to have their own restrictions of things that need to be implemented and what that looks like. But yeah, I mean, definitely privacy is a huge thing. It's something that everyone takes very seriously. One of the areas of no code that, we're kind of stuck in, that we can't, it seems like the market can't quite break through yet is like HIPAA compliance.
Yeah.
Like I know that there's a tool called NAC that's HIPAA compliant, but I don't know of another one. So like that's a thing that those things are having to be worked out, and I'm sure that it will, because it's going to have to.
It's going to have to
succeed and saturate these markets.
Yeah, and Lord knows we need some help with the healthcare situation.
Right. Yeah.
So, in addition to, following you and, looking at Product Hunt and things like that, are there others in the space that you'd recommend following to keep up on trends in this area?
Yeah. There's quite a few. I am partial to like saying women because that's who I'm around so much. But there's lots of people. Like I mentioned Tara Reid earlier. She has Apps Without Code. She's done so much to transform the space. She has a TED Talk as well. She's wonderful. Ben Tossell is another one. Colleen Brady is another one. I wish I had like links for all these people now.
Oh, that's okay. I got it.
Okay. And Carrie Craver is another one. Carrie actually, like a really cool way that she used no code. So she's local where I live in the DFW area, and her dad couldn't find a place to go get COVID testing. Like he was calling around all these places. There was not a centralized way to understand who has testing available. So she created a website that was in, like, she's a UX designer. So she was able to create an entire website that had a list of all of these places, and then like contact information, all of these things, so that people could go there and find out who has testing available. She was featured on like NBC, and
I saw that.
Yeah, it's incredible. And she was able to spin it up in like a weekend. I mean, that's incredible. So,
yeah, it is. And didn't she launch it in New York? Wasn't it launched in New York? Or no, that was another guy. Another guy did something similar in Manhattan, where it was really, really difficult for people to get signed up.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I love that. Okay, so Tara Reid, Ben Tossell is the guy who started MakerPad.
Yeah.
I put those websites up. And then anybody else that you can think of that that might be valuable?
Yeah. I mean, like we have a podcast, Visual Dev FM. We're talking all around no code all the time, different tools. We do interviews. I'm biased there, but it's a good resource. We put in quite a bit of effort to it.
It is good. I listened to a couple of the sessions.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Okay. I'll put that in there.
I'm looking at like a lot of no code right now is also, let me see if I can put that in there, on Twitter, which that's like, I guess where we hang out a lot and like get to know one another. I'm just thinking of people and just putting their Twitter handles in here.
And people who are building in the open. So sometimes when I look at entrepreneurs and they're building in the open and talking about their tech stack, then I'll take their name and look it up on LinkedIn. And I'm like, oh, well, she's not a developer.
Right.
Like, how is she doing this? So I just get, I'm just look at it and go, how are people doing this? Anyway,
For sure. Yeah, a lot of these people don't have development backgrounds at all. They're just self-taught. So, and when you think about it, like, the statistic, it's like 99.7% of the world can't code. So,
Yeah, no, I know. No, it's scary. I also found a Webflow University that's relatively new, and I found that through your podcast. You guys were talking about it in a most recent session. Anyway, and I looked at the site and I thought, oh my God, this is great. What a great resource. And then another one that I think is relative, it's pretty new. It's about talking about the future in technology overall. And it's by Andreessen Horowitz, but they're doing a newsletter just called Future. So I signed up for it. So whoever is interested in that, but in case people don't know where to go in terms of looking around for stuff, because that was one thing that we found in our research was that people would say, I don't know what I don't know.
Right. Yeah, totally.
So then the big question. So how would you go about getting set up to build a no-code product? I mean, what do you suggest in terms of mapping out the product? I know that there were 3 different sections or areas, like it wasn't called call to action, but it was something like that on your website. And it looked so easy and intuitive. Like, here's the image, here's what you do, here's what's going to happen when you move that over. And you kind of talk through what would be the best way to get started if you have an idea.
Yeah, definitely. So, I think of no code in like a few different ways of what you can build. So you could do a website, a web app, or a mobile app. And a web app is basically a website that's powered by a database that has like some login, log out, it's authentication features there. I won't get into all of it. But what I would think of, like, especially looking at doing like an app or a web app, because those are so similar, is I would go through and think about, what do you want your user to accomplish? And like, I do this all the time. I just write it out on like pen and paper. Just start writing it out. What kind of things do I want them to accomplish? Okay. Look at other apps that are similar. What do they have similar functionality? So if I click this button, where do I go? And you map it out honestly by like writing things out. And I think
you don't have to use Sketch or whatever it's called.
No, I mean, you can if
Figma.
Yeah, I know, I love Figma. You totally can if you're comfortable, but like pen and paper is a perfect way to start. I'm very tactile, so like I have to touch it first, and then it gets in my brain, then I can put it out on, whatever software I'm using. But start mapping it out and thinking about it. Like, if you have an idea or something that you want to build, talk to a friend about it. And like, if you're comfortable, record yourself talking about it. What's it going to do? And then try and write that out of like, okay, yeah, that's what I want them to accomplish. Like, I want them to be able to do a reservation or have an item that they share, or, I don't know, send a notification to someone. And as you're doing that, it's going to become clearer and clearer. And then you kind of step back and say, okay, well, like, I know I'm going to need a place, like they're going to have to log in, and then they're going to they're going to have to sign up first, and then they're going to have to log in. And then what do? They're going to typically go to a home screen, a screen that they see all the time. What's going to be on that screen? And if they click on something on that screen, then where do they go? It's kind of breaking it down step by step. But I think it's also like, take your favorite, like I'm just using apps, for example, but you could do this with anything. Take your favorite app, website, and like study how it's laid out. Look at like it's kind of that creating awareness again, and being curious about what you're looking at. And it's going to start clicking things. And then you're going to, without a doubt, start noticing a pattern. That typical websites, web apps follow a pattern. And then you'll want to emulate that. Like when you go to a website and you have a call to action button, it's typically before the fold on the website. So before you scroll, you're going to see a button there. Like being aware of those things that you're noticing is going to help you kind of conceptualize in your mind what you want to create. But talking it out is definitely the best.
I love that idea. I also like the fact that on your site you have templates. You actually have app templates. And so, these are pretty basic in terms of the flow of the product, right? And so that's what I loved about it. And then you also have a lot of tutorials on there as well. So it looks pretty easy. So in terms of things that you're seeing in no code, I mean, what do you think is the most exciting thing about it right now?
So like I already said, like I love software. So there's so much software that it's like, every time it's like, I want to play with this. I want to go over here. This. But for me, it's the people coming in and them having that moment, like it clicks and they're like, oh wait, I get it. I get it. This makes sense. Like I can create, because it gives you such a sense of empowerment when you're like, I made this. Like I thought about it and here it is in real life. Like it's the best feeling. And like seeing people get to that point and ask questions, and the no code community is like very open, very friendly. Like there is no such thing as a stupid question because everybody started from the bottom. Like there are very few people in there that have technical backgrounds. You know, they don't. They're just were curious, and they weren't like they didn't let their fear hold them back. I won't say they weren't afraid, but they didn't let their fear hold them back from just tinkering with things and just playing with it.
Okay. So. No, I love that. So we've got 2 questions here. Somebody asked, Rachel asked, what about the CPRA, the California Privacy Act? So when I was talking about the GDPR, this is similar only for the US, for California. So do you have is it a similar answer in terms of the larger no code companies are, have this already embedded so that consumers can control their data? Or
yeah, I'm looking at it right now and I'm not sure. I did have a client in California, and I do remember we did something special for what we built out for them. I don't remember what it was, but I do remember we had to do an extra step. But I want to say it was honestly more of like a terms of service or something like that than any modification to the software. So I want to say that their lawyer drafted something.
Yeah, I bet.
Of like what we're collecting, what we're not. We weren't collecting much, but yeah.
It's some kind of a prompt where they could control it, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then another question by Carol is she wants to know about Europe. And is no code as big of a deal there as it is here?
I think it's going that way. So like Adalo, we have a huge client base in Asia.
No way. Do you really?
Yeah, unbelievable to the point where we're like, we're gonna like need to start modifying some content and like creating some stuff, or work with them to create some really cool stuff. So yeah, it's definitely going that way. Ben Tossell, the CEO of MakerPad, like I mentioned, he's I think in like London area. But as far as like, none of us gathered together last year, but I don't know if there's like any plans to do like a no code tour over there. But I think it will be. And I guess I run into more people on Twitter who are based over there. I see some there's like France and all of that I notice it more. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like with Silicon Valley but anybody can access it. So
yeah. And you think about like it just takes one friend telling a friend doing a meetup, and then it's just going to grow, naturally it will. So yeah, I think in the next like 2 years ish, we're going to see, like, I think we're in like a bit of a boom with it right now. I think it's going to be everywhere, but it's how we're going to talk about it that I'm curious. We have a debate internally, or I say we, David and I, the CEO of Adalo, debate about whether or not no code, the term is going to be dropped altogether, and we're just going to call this software development, or what's going to happen. So yeah, I'm really curious.
Yeah, it seems like it's really kind of at the beginning of the trend, and the pandemic has forced people to go, oh, guess what? I'm a consultant now because I lost my job. So I'm going to make my website in Webflow because it's easier than WordPress or whatever. But, so many of these tools I had no idea about, like pre-pandemic, no idea. And then when I started following people who were building in public, I would look around and go, oh my God. And then I used something called AirDeck, where you can record your voice over presentations. And, it just makes it easy when you send a PDF presentation to somebody and want to articulate your ideas and how it would work. And anyway, so I just thought, oh my God, there's so many amazing, easy tools. And I am by no means a developer.
Yeah, right. And people are using it in super interesting ways too. Like there are people who are just going to platforms, like let's say they have like a really like specified knowledge in an area and they want to like create courses and help people and coach and all of that. So they're going and like there's a platform called Circle that's really great for online community. And they're just going in there and like that's a no-code tool. It works with other tools and you can go in there, set up a membership, like set up cohorts, whatever you want to do, have it integrate with an email software, you know, like you could even integrate it with like a teaching platform. I mean, people are getting really, really creative with ways that they're trying to like earn a living because they've lost their job, you know?
Yeah, there's a woman named Lee Jin. It's Lijin. And she talks about the passion economy, and they invest a lot in like Kajabi, which is another no-code platform, really, where you can have all of your courses and everything, your site, everything in one area, but you don't have to worry really about the tech piece. You're paying for customer service, of course, and for having all of your content reside there. But yeah, there's a lot of media companies that, you know, it's just membership only, and that's, you know, they're moving away from advertising and they're just moving to a members only. And so that's a great way to do it. No, Circle platform's great. I use it for one community I'm involved with. I've used Mighty Networks a little bit, but no, I mean, I didn't know anything about these, you know, say, call it 9 months ago.
Yeah. And I think the bigger questions are being asked right now in the community of like, how do we get outside of tech? How do we get outside of like no code Twitter that we all hang out on? Like, how do we get outside? And my perspective is education. Like, I think we have to approach education from the very fundamentals, the very basics, and be willing to be patient and take people through to the end, and hopefully rely that our people who are going through it are also being patient, because it's a lot to learn, you know, like it's not, you know, no code doesn't mean no learning or no difficulty or no, you know, like it's still software that you're having to work with and learn, but the benefits, once you get it down, and you will, are amazing.
Yeah. So it's worth it to power through that frustration of the newness. Because I was working on is it IO? Bubble dot.
Yeah, Bubble.
And I thought, okay, this isn't super intuitive for me, but I kept at it, and then I didn't create anything with it, but they have you walk through the different steps, and then they congratulate you when you move something and it animates. It's really funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, I can see that it'll take some time. I mean, but absolutely, it's worth it. And yeah, I was wondering about that too, because in terms of getting the word out, because, you know, when you lose your job or you can't get in because you've just graduated from college and you don't have enough experience, you know, or you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and there's ageism at the hiring level. It's like, well, oh my God, do people know about these tools where they could actually generate an income? You know, if they have an idea and they've always wanted to build something. So no, it's super interesting to me. I love it. And so I'm really, really glad this worked out. Is there anything else you wanted to add in terms of things that people should know, or any courses because you guys are coming out with some courses, aren't you?
Yeah, we're working on it. It's been a slow going, like on figuring out what that all looks like. And then now like creating more content with it all. So like by all day long, I'm just like saying the same thing in, you know, some different ways. But we're figuring it out. I think that, so getting into no code, there are a couple things. I think one, like YouTube has tons of tutorials. I think go watch some of them and kind of start to familiarize yourself with just like one tool. You know, there's a few tools that I think are really great for beginners. One's Adalo, and I'm not being biased. Like
it looks really easy. I went through the tutorial.
Yeah. I mean, our motto is simple but powerful. Like we don't want to scare you with our UI, but it's very powerful. Another one for websites is Card, and that's 2 R's. I can put it in here in the chat. Card.
I've read about that one, but I haven't played around with it yet.
Yeah, it's very simple. It's a 1-page website. It's like stacking blocks on top of each other. Very simple to get up hosting and so cheap. I don't know how they make money, but they do, and it's great. So those are definitely 2 really simple tools. And then Zapier as well. I'll write that down in here. It's an automation tool. Once you get the hang of it, you'll be hooked. It is it's fun to build it and like set it up. And then once you see like your zaps happening and you're not having to like do this stuff manually, it's fun.
It's an amazing company, and they're probably going to go public, I would imagine.
Oh yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the rumor on the street is that company is just going nuts right now. But doesn't it also kind of connect? It connects one product to another, right?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it can connect like lots of products together that you have. I've worked with I have an Airtable, which is another really good one. Let me put that in there, especially for databases. Airtable is great. It's very clean, very simple to use. I've used Airtable and Webflow, and then use another thing called MemberStack. Had that all running together. Have Zapier connect it all, and it's fun to set up and do. So
I love it. I love it. I love that you're so curious and you're self-taught pretty much. I mean, went down the developer path and then went, oh, wait a minute, I'm back up on that one.
Yeah, I know. I'm just so thankful these things exist. I mean, I know there are a lot of people like me who tried coding and didn't work out, and it's like, what do you do? That's kind of a hard thing to walk away from when you're like, but I'm really passionate about creating. I just don't like this one aspect. So I'm really thankful that tools like this exist.
Oh, wait, we have another question, it looks like. Let's see. This is from Carol again. Does no code make it easier to moderate comments on social media? And does no code reduce response time during crisis management? I think those are, I don't know if there are, I don't know, you would be able to respond better than me, I think.
I would think on comments on social media, I think
that's more like AI.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of what kind of platform, I'm Twitter or something like that. But then a lot of those tools don't like it when you have any type of bots or something that are responding. I wish there was a universal way to pull it all into one place. So that one I'm not sure. I haven't heard of anything like that. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I haven't heard of it. And then the
other one was about reducing response time during crisis management. I would think yes.
Yes.
During the pandemic, you just talked about, there were some people who have restaurants who actually did what you said and created their own app, and they were able to turn on a dime.
Yeah, absolutely it does. Absolutely does. And it does in a couple different ways. You can go create something. You can if your website's down or something's broken, you can go put out an update really quickly. So what no code does in a way is it gives you the freedom to handle those things, so you're not relying on someone else to handle them for you.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I loved our conversation.
Me too. It was great. It was so good.
Good. So, and last chance to ask a question. Nope, I don't see any more. Okay. Lacy, thank you again for your time, and really appreciate it. I've heard all of these people and experts talking about, millennials are taking advantage of, no code. And I thought, well, what about the younger people? What about the older people? Those are the 2 cohorts that are really affected by the pandemic in terms of jobs and job loss. So that's why I wanted to talk to you. So I'm so glad that you made the time, and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.